you're over 70 and think daily walking is enough, you're not alone. But you're also not safe. I've worked with older adults in hospice, rehab, and home care for nearly 20 years. And the most heartbreaking conversations I've had came after someone fell and whispered, "I thought I was doing everything right." The truth is, most seniors don't fall because they're inactive. They fall because they rely on walking and nothing else. And no one told them what was missing until it was too late. I once cared for a man named Thomas, 74, recently retired. Walked 3 miles every morning, rain or shine. He was proud of it, showed me his step counter like a badge of honor. But one afternoon, he bent down to pick up his grandson's toy truck and couldn't get back up. His quads had nothing left. His spine couldn't stabilize. He told me later, "My legs walked me for years. I just never taught them how to lift anymore." That's the difference. Walking moves your body forward, but it doesn't protect you when life pulls you sideways or down. After 70, it's not about motion anymore. It's about preparedness. Prepared to stand from a low chair without your hands. Prepared to twist and reach without pulling something. Prepared to catch yourself when life, inevitably, gets uneven. And if you don't build that preparation, walking alone becomes a silent trap. You feel mobile until one day your body says otherwise. So before we go any further, let me be clear. This isn't a fitness plan. It's a survival guide. 6 forms of movement that have nothing to do with how far you walk, and everything to do with how long you stay standing. Let's begin. Her name was Lorna. She was 79. Lived alone in a small 1-bedroom near a library she used to walk to every morning. I met her after the fall. It wasn't a dramatic fall. No broken bones. Just one misstep on her front porch. The kind of misstep you can't brace for because you don't expect it. She landed hard. Not on the concrete, but on her confidence. When I saw her a few days later, she looked smaller. Not physically, something in her had shrunk. "I didn't even feel dizzy," she said. "I just stepped out like I always do." And the world tilted. She had walked that same path every day for over a decade. Same shoes, same route. But that morning, her foot found the edge of the step in the wrong way. And there was no core strength to pull her back.
No anche il reflex.
No awareness of how her balance had eroded day by day in silence. That's what shook her most. Not the fall, but the realization that her body had become unpredictable. And no one had warned her. Walking keeps you moving forward, yes, but it doesn't train the body to recover sideways. It doesn't wake up the tiny stabilizer muscles in your ankles, your hips, your core. It doesn't teach your brain how to find balance again when you're thrown off. You need specific movement for that. Targeted, repetitive, slow balance training. And most seniors skip it, because no one ever told them how important it was until after the damage. Lorna started slow. Holding the back of a chair, she lifted one foot for 10 seconds. Some days she couldn't get past 6. She hated it at first, it made her feel fragile. But she kept going. Not for strength, for trust. She needed to trust her body again. Not to never fall, but to know it could respond if it did. That's the shift we rarely talk about. It's not about how far you can walk. It's about how fast your body can react when something goes wrong. Because something will go wrong. That's not fear-mongering. That's aging. And aging, if you let it, will slowly disconnect you from your reflexes. Not because you stop moving, but because you stop challenging your movement. Balance isn't a thing you keep by accident. It's a thing you train or lose. And most people only realize it when the porch step disappears beneath them. If you're still here, feel free to leave your thoughts below. I read each one with care. There's a moment most seniors never talk about. The one where your body moves, but you don't feel in control of it anymore. Your legs still carry you. Your feet still lift. But when you turn too fast, the room spins just a little. When you reach too far, your balance wavers. And deep down, you start to move more cautiously, not out of wisdom, but out of fear. That's what happened to Don. He was 76 when I met him. A retired mechanic, hands still rough with grease memories. He walked his dog every morning. Didn't need a cane. Said he felt pretty good, considering. But he told me something that made me pause. I don't trust my turns anymore. Turns. Not stairs. Not hills. Just turning around. It was so specific, so revealing. He could walk a mile straight, no problem. But if he had to bend, twist, or shift direction, even in his own kitchen, his body hesitated. And his mind noticed. That's not a balance issue. That's a coordination breakdown, the body slowly forgetting how to respond in multiple planes of motion. Walking is linear, but life isn't. You reach down. You look over your shoulder. You step to the side to avoid a slipper on the floor. And in those moments, if your hips are stiff, your spine locked, your brain disconnected from your stabilizers, you're at risk. Even if you walk every day. We started Dawn on rotational drills. Simple stuff. Standing in place, gently turning his torso side to side. Reaching across his body to tap one knee, then the other. Lunges with a slight twist. Nothing that would break a sweat. But within weeks, he started moving more fluidly again. More confidently. The dog walks became less rigid. The hesitation softened. He looked at me one day and said, "I feel like my body listens better now." That's it. That's what flexibility and mobility give back to you, responsiveness. It's not about touching your toes. It's about picking up a dropped pill from the floor without tipping over. It's about rotating your shoulders enough to back out of a parking spot without strain. It's about living in all directions, not just forward. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you intentionally train the body to move outside its usual lines. Because here's the truth. If you only ever move in straight lines, you'll fall the moment life bends. Her name was Marion. She wasn't frail. She wasn't forgetful. She wasn't anything most people picture when they hear the word elderly. She was 81, lived alone, still cooked her own meals, even drove to church on Sundays. But one day, she said something to me that I'll never forget. "I don't feel like I live in my body anymore. I feel like I just drag it around." It hit harder than any medical chart ever could. Because at some point, and it comes quietly, many older adults stop feeling connected to their body. It becomes a vessel, a burden, something they manage, not something they inhabit. That disconnect doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, every time you grunt getting out of bed, every time your spine curves just a little more forward, every time you start a sentence with, "I used to be able to." What Marion was feeling wasn't weakness. It was grief. Grief over a body that once responded instantly. Grief over the slow fading of presence, of dignity, of power. And that's where core strength and posture training become something more than just exercises. They become acts of reclamation. We started simple, seated breathing, not chest breathing, deep belly breaths that awaken the diaphragm and remind the brain, "I'm here. I'm safe. I'm upright." Then small seated tilts, shoulder rolls, slow spinal extensions with a towel behind her back. I told her, this isn't about looking younger. It's about standing in yourself again. And within a few weeks, something shifted. She didn't move faster, but she moved more deliberately. Her hands stopped bracing the table when she stood up. She started walking taller, not because her back got stronger, but because her spirit stopped curling inward. "It feels like I'm returning to myself," she told me one morning. "Like I'm no longer disappearing." Posture is not vanity. It's visibility. When a senior stands tall, even with a cane, they send a message to the world. I'm not fading. I'm still here. And when the core is engaged, even just enough to lift from a chair without using your hands, that's power. That's autonomy. That's one more day of not needing help just to go to the bathroom. I've seen grown men cry after doing their first unassisted sit-to-stand in years. Not because it was hard, but because it proved they weren't done. So if you're listening and feel like your body is pulling away from you, like you're shrinking inside and out, know this, you can come back. You don't need to be 40 again. You just need to feel inhabited, anchored, upright, not just physically, but emotionally. And it starts with small, boring, quiet moves. Moves that tell your nervous system, "I'm here." Moves that remind your spine, "We still belong to each other." Moves that make standing not just possible, but proud. There's one more conversation I want to share. It was with a man named Joseph. 85 years old, sharp as a tack, and honest in a way only age allows. He sat across from me in a worn recliner, hands resting on his knees, and said, "You know what I miss most? Not running, not climbing stairs. I miss moving without thinking." That line stuck with me, because that's what aging takes, slowly and silently, the unconscious freedom of motion, the ability to reach, turn, bend, rise without fear, without hesitation. He told me, "Now I think before every movement, not because I want to, but because I have to." It wasn't sadness in his voice. It was clarity. And I realized we don't move just to stay alive. We move to feel alive. We don't train our bodies after 70 just to avoid the hospital. We train to stay in the world, to pick up the phone, hug someone we love, reach the cupboard, answer the door, tie our shoes without holding our breath. Movement becomes meaning. So no, walking alone is not enough. Because walking is linear. Life isn't. After 70, your body doesn't need punishment. It needs preparation. Not harder workouts, but smarter ones. Not chasing youth, but building steadiness. That means strength. That means balance. That means flexibility. That means core control. That means posture. That means joint support. And that means saying to yourself with full conviction, "I want to stay here, and I'm willing to move differently to do it." It's not about returning to who you were. It's about becoming someone who's still present, still upright, still choosing. So if you've been walking every day, I celebrate that. But I'm also asking you to go one step further, to train the rest of you, the parts that fall first, the parts you never see in the mirror. Because the truth is, you don't need to move more. You need to move more intentionally. And if this kind of quiet reflection feels helpful to you, you're welcome to come back anytime. I'll be here,